I think that we should change the federal minimum wage from $7.25 to $15 an hour. For starters, the federal minimum wage hasn't been changed since 2009, which is over 15 years ago. In today's world, where living expenses such as housing costs, healthcare, education, as well as necessities like groceries and transportation have all seen huge increases, I feel like for people who work minimum wage jobs, it should be changed so they don't have to struggle every day at work just to provide for themselves or their family. According to healthcare.gov, the poverty line in 2023 was sitting around $14,000. If you worked minimum wage last year, you were roughly making around $15,000 before taxes, which means you were just scraping by the poverty line by $1,000. In today's world where everything is overpriced because of inflation, I feel like having that amount of money per year is not going to help you with anything you got going on in your life. I'm sure you heard the saying, money doesn't grow on trees, and for people working those minimum wage jobs, I'm sure they feel that the most. According to AmericanProgress.org, new estimates from the Center for American Progress show that raising to a $15 minimum wage could increase the wages in 1 in 4 workers, which is nearly 40 million workers around the world, and lead to an annual wage as large as $8,000 for some of the lowest wage workers, getting more people out of poverty and helping the United States better as a whole. Now, people think that if we raise the minimum wage, that we could harm the economy, but I honestly think it's the opposite. By putting more money in the hands of low-income workers, it helps them spend more, and by spending more, it helps the economy. And that's something we need nowadays because the economy is in a terrible state. Another positive for raising the minimum wage is that by paying people more money, it's only going to make them produce better quality and more efficient work, which in return helps companies earn a lot more money, which is obviously something every company wants to have when they're running one. Every person wants to have when they're running a company, sorry. So for people living in places like New York or California, for example, their cost of living is way higher than for someone who lives in a different state. And if you're working a minimum wage job in one of these two states, the money that you're making and the cost of living is a huge gap. And I feel like by raising the minimum wage up, it's only going to help people who live in these states because it'll keep them from getting into poverty. It'll make their way of life much better in that they don't have to struggle and provide just enough money to get by per week, living paycheck to paycheck. And it just, in turn, just makes people better and just more happy. And by being able to have more money, you tend to, I guess, like not worry as much because obviously you have stuff you have to worry about. Everyone does, but for things like bills or health, or you struggling to eat at night, or you're struggling to pay rent, by having this minimum wage be higher, it just makes everything easier for people working those minimum wage jobs. You don't have to work more than one too, which is also a positive thing. But all in all, I feel like raising the federal minimum wage is only going to help people in the United States provide better lives for themselves, as well as providing better lives for their families, and just making the United States a better place overall to live.